My name is Chris, and I have goosebumps on my arm from our conversation with Edie Hu, who's a Hong Kong-based open water swimmer who swims 1, 5, 10, 20 plus kilometers in the open water. So she's talking about some pretty serious stuff of what it takes to be able to swim that long, how you feel that, what fuels her passion for it, how she got into it, things that she's seen in the water, and how she's able to process that and make sure that she can finish her swims. This thing called the Ocean 7, which is a worldwide swimming challenge of swimming the 7 most difficult open water swims in the world. Her goal of eventually doing that, and really, what the love of the water means for her. So it's a great conversation with Edie, and we hope you guys enjoy. Welcome to the Process Podcast. I am joined today by Edie Hu. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Sweet. I don't know why, but one of the biggest things, my priorities is to make sure that I pronounce people's names correctly. Probably because my name is mispronounced pretty often. Not Christopher, because that's a standard name.
What's your last name?
Twazon.
Twazon.
But more often than not, people will say Tarzan or something like that. Or Tuazon, which isn't a problem, but it's just like, I know how it should sound. But then I always am like, yeah, that's fine. I've been called Mr. Tarzan at a local Ralph's pretty often. Actually, yeah, anyway. But from there, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and why you're joining us today.
Hi. So thanks for having me.
Sure.
I am been asked to talk about my open water swimming so-called career, I guess. It's kind of, I don't get paid for it, so I'm not a professional swimmer, but it's something that I've been swimming all my life. But in the last, I would say 10 years, I've been doing open water swimming. And it's kind of taken off on a life of its own now. And it's kind of my own passion now. And people now know me more as the swimmer than anything else.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
I think it's kind of funny because it's kind of come full circle because as a kid, I was a swimmer and I swam in college. Then I took a huge break, 15 years off, not doing anything. And then it was really not until I got to Hong Kong and I discovered that there was sort of open water swimming. I slowly got into it with some short races. And then I started joining more regular open water Sunday swims. And then pretty soon now it's like come back to like taking my whole life over. So, yeah.
As a person who participates in CrossFit, I think a lot of us would tell you the same story is we're not paid to do this, but it's what we're passionate about. And for some of us, it's what we are approached to talk about, either through social media or what have you. And it's like, well, I have a whole other life outside of that. So if you'd like to entertain me about this, what do you do professionally?
So I am an independent art appraiser. I used to work for an auction house, and then I worked at a private bank in Hong Kong, and I was doing art, and I still do. I do appraisals. I left the bank, and then now I work with a couple colleagues who are based in the U.S., and we work on appraisals, and I do also consult for another bank in the U.S. for art financing. So that is another topic I could go off on.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you guys want to hear more about my swimming career.
Well, would you say you're passionate about your art appraisal career as well?
I am, but I think, what people identify me more with now in Hong Kong, what has sort of set me apart and made me, I guess, maybe a more interesting person is the swimming aspect. I think professionally, I think there are other people that do my job. So I think that the swimming part in Hong Kong maybe is more unique.
If you were like in charge of, I guess, the narrative of who you are, how would you identify yourself?
I am probably a swimmer / art person. So
Okay.
I would probably still say I'm a swimmer first.
Great. And yeah, the premise of you being a guest on this show is to talk about your open water swimming, because among your many achievements that we'll talk about today, you have a record-breaking swim of the Orison Strait, which we'll get to talk about. But you basically spent, 5 hours, 10 minutes, 18 seconds, which is the fastest in the world. And the Orison Strait, if you can give us a quick background, what is that? What distance is that? And what bodies of land does that connect?
So it's the body of water. It's part of the Baltic Sea. It's the body of water between Denmark and Sweden. At the narrowest point is 4 kilometers. But then the swim that I did was a 20-kilometer swim that took place a little bit north of Copenhagen and straight across to the other side in Barsebäck in Sweden.
Okay. 20 kilometers of a swim. I mean, I like I was saying before our conversation, on the podcast, is I am a swimmer as well. I don't know the last time I've logged 20 kilometers of swimming at any given point, if you're talking about like a month's long log. So that's just mind blowing to hear about. But the whole idea is that you did that, plus you broke the record for the time of the swim. And I guess one thing that I don't know how often I've spoken to a world record holder, but to know that, like, just you're living life, but you've broken a world record. Does that feel special at all? Like, how does that feel to know that you've done that?
I felt pretty cool, but it didn't even dawn on me. I mean, I because I'm in the swimming community, I follow so many other really great swimmers, fast swimmers. And so I kind of thought that my swim wasn't really that significant in terms of what, if they swim, those guys swim the same swim, they would have blown my time out of the water. But I think it's also a newer swim that has only been around for about 3 years. So the organizer just started in 2022, I think, and he hasn't had that many people swim it. So I was, I think, the 9th or 10th person that swam it. And so the chances of setting a record were pretty high.
But you did it.
Yeah, I did it.
I wanted to quickly interrupt this episode with a quick shout out to our sponsors, Today Well Spent. I've been using this journal for 2 years and it has made a massive impact on my physical, but mostly my mental well-being. It is a guided journal backed by neuro and behavioral science, which I actually didn't know at the time. It has questions for you to answer at the start of the day, at the end of the day, end of every week, end of every month. And it's brought so much self-awareness to me of the things that positively and negatively impact my life. So if you're someone who cares about your physical and your mental well-being, which I think you do because you listen to this podcast, then go and grab yourself a Today Well Spent. Use the discount code THEPROCESS, one word in capitals, to get your discount.
And let's kind of go back as far back as you're willing to go. Tell us about your swimming career, like, your life as a swimmer, your first swimming experience, how you fell in love with it. You said you swam also in school. Just tell us a brief history of Edie as the swimmer.
So I grew up in the Bay Area in California. I started swimming when I was I learned to swim, I think, when I was 5. My mom signed me and my younger brother, Eric, up for swimming lessons at our local club. And I think I kind of vaguely remember that we were terrified of our swimming instructor.
Okay.
And
never mind the water.
And we were both having solo lessons. So I think I went first. And then when it was my brother's turn, he was crying, and the swimming instructor, I think, really didn't have tolerance for crying kids. So she just dunked him.
No way.
Yeah.
Just like picked him up and threw him in the deep end?
No. Just pulled him down underneath the water. And I think it kind of stopped him from crying. But I think as soon as he came back up, he was crying again. So our first swimming experience was a little bit more sheer terror.
Yeah.
But I think as we kind of got a little bit more used to swimming, we found that it was fun and we could play in the water. And then pretty soon we were just addicted to swimming. And a few years after our first swimming lessons, my mom signed us up for the swim team. And we started making friends. And, at that age, like 7 or 8, you start coming back home with ribbons, and it's very encouraging. You could be swimming in a slow heat, but you still got a blue ribbon. it's fun,
Sure.
And then we were on a winning team, and so it was just like more fun, and we had all these older kids to look up to, and it was, the coaches were also making it off a lot of fun. So I think we just wanted to stay in the water as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of developed into year-round swimming for me. My brother didn't, he had a lot of other activities. And then we always kept the summer swimming, because that was where we had all our friends. The year-round swimming was a little bit more, I was probably not as committed. So eventually my mom's like, I'm not wasting any more money, because you're not going to enough practices. So it was until I got to high school that I started taking it more seriously. And again, I was on a good team that was winning, and I kind of felt like I wanted to carry on to see if I could swim in college. Although I'm not the fastest kid, so I wasn't going to make it to the Division I NC2A schools like Stanford or Cal.
Right.
But I wanted to swim, and the U.S. education program is so great because they do have swimming programs, in collegiate swimming programs, that are for people who are less, a little slower, but you can still compete at a high level. And so I went to Wellesley College, which is a women's college outside of Boston.
Right.
And I swam on the swim team all 4 years. And I was the captain of the swim team, and I was a sprinter and a backstroker and an IMer.
Yeah, I was wondering, what were your go-to events on the team?
Yes, I was not a distance swimmer.
You didn't do like the 1500 or anything like that?
Hell no. No. I was a sprinter, because sprinting, I could get out earlier. I mean, I just didn't understand why people would want to waste their time swimming like 500s, which in the 25-yard pool is 20 laps.
Mm-hmm.
It's
a lot of flip turns.
And the sprinters, we swam 50s and 100s, and we got rest, and we could keep going, and it's just like less work for us. So I just never understood the mentality of a distance swimmer.
That's so funny that you mentioned that, because when I started swimming, I swam in high school as well, without any experience. It was just something I could do in the spring, because in the winter I was on the wrestling team, and then in the spring I didn't really have any sports lined up. And I liked bodyboarding in high school, and I thought, okay, this might be fun to be in the water still. And at some point they were filling out the roster for everyone doing the events, and me as a beginner swimmer, my coach said, we have 2 events left, either the IM or the 1500 or the 500 or 400, the long distance swim. And then it was just immediate, like, there's no way I want to swim a long distance. Give me the IM, because it's 100 meters, and sure, it'll probably hurt, but I won't be bored out of my mind, because all I saw were my friends who were doing it. They had those signs in the water. It's it's such a long distance in a 25-meter pool that you're going to forget how many laps you've done. And who wants to do that? So I definitely identify with the hesitation to do long distance. Yet here you are, being known for being a long distance swimmer. Yeah. So bridge the gap here for us.
So after I also played water polo in college. I started the water polo team when I was in college. But then after graduating, I moved to Taiwan for about a year and a half, and I didn't really swim much, and I was kind of burned out. I didn't really have any desire to compete, and I just kind of did other things, or pretty much nothing. Maybe some walking. I tried to run a little bit. I lived in New York, and I tried running. I'm definitely not a runner. I've kind of bottom heavy. I pretty much decided that I'm probably designed for swimming and not much land stuff.
So you give it a shot.
I float very well. And so it just, I tried things, but I didn't really do very much activities until I moved to Hong Kong. I moved here in 2007, and I heard about these open water swims that were like 2K. There was one called the Sheko Challenge, and it was in the summertime in July, and you swim from Bigway Bay to Sheko Back Beach, 2K swim. I didn't even train for it. I got in. I thought it was fun. I met some friends. And then there was another one that was called the Clean Half, and that was a longer swim, and people did it as a relay. So because I didn't really know that many people, the first swim I tried doing, I recruited one person that I knew, and he recruited a couple people, one other guy, and I recruited a couple people from work, one who only swam breaststroke, and another one that.
So your friend swam breaststroke for the entire distance?
Well, her leg of the swim over this 15K, and the other guy also just completely couldn't sight. He didn't really know where he was going. He would put his head down, and he came in really baggy trunks, and I was like, okay. But we did okay.
Yeah.
But then I started to get to know the community a little bit better. So the next year, I had a team of swimmers that I knew that wanted to join me for the swim. So I kind of just started slowly getting involved in the open water community in Hong Kong, and slowly but surely started wanting to do a little bit more distance. We would do 3K on Sundays. And then some of us were like, maybe we could go, our swims are mainly in Repulse Bay, and we go outside the shark net, and we swim to these South Bay rocks, which swimmers have nicknamed the nipples.
Oh, nice.
Because of the little shapes of
them. I could imagine why it was called that.
And then if we wanted to swim a little bit more, we swam to Chungam Kok, which became a 5K swim if you swim all the way back. And the first time we swam 5K, I was wiped out. But I was ecstatic. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did 5K.
Yeah.
And now, we just started building up distance. We called ourselves the distant junkies.
Okay. So there became like this inflection point where instead of being, I guess, fearful or disgusted or just not into distance swimming, it just kind of slowly crept on as, was it the achievement of it? Was it the process of swimming that long? Like, what about it would you say kind of enticed you to keep doing more and keep pushing that limit?
I think it was the freedom of being in the water that was different from being in a pool. The pool has walls, and you're constantly having to do flip turns.
Yeah.
And there was just sort of a organic feel of, and you don't know what you're going to get. Like one day the conditions could be just flat and beautiful. The water could be clean and clear. The next day you swim the same course and it's windy, it's choppy. And I really just like this sort of unknown factor.
Okay.
I think it would probably freak people out, but there are jellyfish in the water. Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not. And
so you've been stung before?
Oh, yeah. We don't have ones that are really painful.
Yeah.
They sting, they hurt, and then they go away in like 10, 15 minutes.
But you're dealing with that sting during the swim.
A little bit. But I think for me, getting stung, I mean, obviously I haven't been stung by box jellyfish and or even a Portuguese man-o-war or blue bottle. So those hurt extremely badly, but the ones that we have, they hurt, but it also the pain also kind of pulls me back to like waking me up.
Oh.
And so kind of, in the long distance swimming, you kind of space out a little bit. It's like meditation.
That was actually going to be one of my questions is if you're talking about, anywhere from 5 kilometers to 20 kilometers, you're talking about this can be a swim for hours.
Right.
Is your approach in the moment, are you very thoughtful and mindful, or do you turn off the brain and just kind of go with the flow? Or is it a little bit of both? Like, what is your mental process like as you're in the water swimming?
I do think about my strokes. As one of the things when I first started open water swimming was I swam with music. I had earphones and I had a little iPod shuffle, and I thought this is a game changer. I love music.
Yeah.
It helps me be distracted, and it helps pass the time. And then as I kind of got more serious about swimming, and one of the first swims I was planning to do with my brother, this is my first long distance swim, was swimming the Maui Channel with my brother in 2015. And people told me, you can't swim with music. So you have to kind of be okay with hearing your breath and your bubbles. And so I kind of weaned myself off the music.
I see.
And it was hard. But also at that time, the iPod Shuffle kept kind of, sometimes the music would stop, and then I'd get like static.
It would be distracting.
It became more distracting because I was trying to like do other things, and I was trying to press play again. And so I tried to wean myself off the music and just become okay with the sound of my breath. And that actually has totally helped. And I don't need the music anymore. I focus on my strokes. I consciously think about where my hand is going and how I'm pulling and what my legs are doing. And also, if I'm swimming with people, I'm looking out for the people around me.
Right.
I think that a lot of times people are just too in their own mind about swimming. And I try to be aware of who's around me and making sure that if they stop, that there's a reason why they have cramped, or they need help. So I'm always, if I swim with somebody and they're swimming right next to me and they suddenly stop, I will stop and make sure that they're okay.
Okay, so even for hours, you can still have that type of like mental spatial awareness.
Trying to keep aware of it. But, I do zone out, and I think about all the things I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to make a phone call. I'm supposed to send an email.
Oh, those things, the things from outside of the swim.
Yeah, think about all the things I need to do. But, there's no way I can stop. I can't call anybody. I can't write anything down. So it is kind of just that those sort of distraction, those thoughts kind of come in and out of your head. But then you start focusing again on your hands and your breath, and it's very calming.
The way that you describe it, I'm not a great practitioner because I'm a very distracted person, and I've tried, but the things that that were most effective when I was trying meditation were the same things. Is you focus on your breathing, you focus on the feel of the room, the smells, but then you start pulling into just your thoughts and knowing that thoughts are going to come and go, and those distractions are going to come. It's not about ignoring them. It's like acknowledging them and then just letting them pass.
Yeah.
Right? Like you'll get to it, but not being pulled out of your zone.
Right.
In your case, like your practice of swimming. So it does sound like meditation. Would you say it is like meditation?
I didn't categorize it as meditation. I didn't even, because I would say that I don't meditate. But then when I heard other people talk about meditation, and I was like, I already do that. Like people take classes, people go on retreats and stuff. And I was like, I think I actually do this already without anybody telling me what to do. And then I realized it is kind of meditation, and I find it very soothing and comforting. And I think a lot of people who do swimming like that repetitiveness of swimming, even in a pool. Just, you don't have to go very fast. You just keep doing, and it's exercise. It's like people walking, and I do it in the ocean.
I love that about my swimming practice. I mean, I don't swim very often, but when I do, it's just the idea of like, all right, breathe every 2 strokes or every 4 strokes, maybe 2 and then 4, and you kind of process through things. And like you said, I can't make a phone call, but I'll think of the scenario and kind of think it through of like what's rational and what's not. So if I allow myself to kind of process those things in a more like, I guess, meditative state, because I am doing just laps in the pool, I feel like I come out of that experience with a better idea of how to approach a problem than if I were to try to figure it out right now and kind of like, in my head as I was sitting down, as it were.
Yeah, it's also good to think things through. Sometimes I have good ideas of if I have to write something and I don't really know how to start my, what I'm writing, the thoughts will come in. I have like ideas of like, oh, that's what I can do. I can write, I can start this way, or I can write it this way. I just have to remember it when I come out of the water.
Sure. Make those mental notes. In the realm of preparing for things, I mean, you have your training swims and everything, but to swim at the volume that you do for your challenges, with the Orison Strait one being about 5 hours of a swim, what does your training week look like? What's your volume like? Do you have long distance days versus even sprinting days? Like, what does that training look like for an open water swimmer?
So I I swim at least 5 times a week.
Mm.
I swim in the pool now. I didn't swim in a pool for the longest time. But I think it was because I didn't really want structure. I love that sort of organic, do it as I feel in the ocean. And so when I trained for like my swim around Hong Kong Island in 2018,
Yeah.
I actually didn't tell anybody, but until I finished it, I wasn't sure if I was going to complete it. But once I completed it, I actually admitted to people that I did not train in the pool. I did all my training was done in the ocean. And it worked for me.
Yeah.
But in 2019, I started to want to swim. I decided I wanted to try one of the Ocean 7 swims, which is one of the 7 sort of hardest swims in the world, or somebody's list that they came up with.
Sure.
And the first one I picked was a swim in Japan, Suguru. And it's a 19.5-kilometer swim, but it's actually ends up being much longer, about almost close to 29K swim.
Whoa. So there's an additional 10 because of currents or something?
No,
or?
you actually start 10 kilometers down on land, down on the peninsula, and you have to go up north. But I can explain this when I get to it.
Yeah.
I can, but I'm talking about, what was I talking about?
Your preparation.
My preparation, exactly. Yeah. So somebody said, maybe you should get in the pool. So I found a coach, and her name is Fenella, and she has a squad called Swim Lab, and she trains open water swimmers and triathletes. So there's it's just freestyle mainly. And we're kind of working on open water swimming techniques like sighting and pacing and more distance. So I started with her in 2019, and now I'm like a regular. I do her Monday technique class, 1 hour, and it's our recovery day. Tuesdays I work with my personal trainer, Claire. And Monday, actually, I also work with Claire. So I work with a personal trainer 3 times a week. She actually comes to my house because I'm kind of lazy about going to the gym. I bought all these equipment and stuff. So I actually have we work out in my kitchen, in my living room. We use all sorts of furniture in my house.
You're bench pressing a couch or something? Or?
We used to. Now I actually bought a proper bench. It's a really great bench. It's from IKEA.
Okay.
They make this storage bench that actually looks like furniture, and it's perfect for bench presses and
Love
things.
it.
Yeah. So, and then for the last year and a half, Claire has taught me how to do handstands. So
freestanding.
We've
nice.
Against the wall. Now I'm off the wall. I'm like a couple seconds freestanding, but and then now we're doing chin-ups. So it's kind of like, it's a lot of fun. And I think that a lot of we started with Pilates, and I had trainers before Claire. And so I've been working with a personal trainer for since 2013. And we did Pilates and weights, but now we kind of evolved. And I think that the handstand has been really good for my upper body development, especially for swimming. And now she teaches through and chin-ups. So we're using a TRX at the moment. And then we do more cardio weights on Thursdays. Wednesdays, when I swim, we do endurance. So it's more about pacing over distance and trying to keep that pace, keeping your aerobic threshold.
I see. Is a set single distance, or are you doing intervals?
Oh, we're doing intervals. Yeah. So it can be like 100s, 200s, 300s. And then repetitive with pulling. And then on Fridays, it's more at threshold pace. So we're doing shorter distance, but we're doing more speed and trying to maintain that higher heart rate, like a higher zone, heart rate zone.
So, kind of the background where you approached open water swimming after spending so many years in a pool doing different specific events. you fell in love with kind of like the open nature of it, where it was pretty intuitive the way you do it. Now, describing your training, there's a lot of like structure of pacing and everything. When you actually come down to it, to the actual swim event itself, how much would you categorize as kind of intuitive by feel versus looking at your pacing and, hitting your targets and stuff like that?
Well, the pacing in the pool is much easier to keep because you basically just have this box and
There's no variables.
There's no variables.
Yeah.
But on Saturdays and Sundays, I go to the sea. And that can change up everything.
Yeah.
Whether you're swimming against the current or with the current, your pace can be totally different. So I do like looking at my watch and seeing my pace. And when sometimes, if the current's with us and I do something like, a 110 pace, which for me is like crazy because I don't swim that fast.
110 per 100?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's not my pace at all. But that's with the current, and it's giving me a huge push. It does make me smile when I can get that like on my watch.
Nice.
It's like registered as like a 110 pace.
Yeah.
But it's just it varies from day to day depending on the weather, and I love that. And on Saturdays we do anywhere from 5 to 10 to 12K. I always have friends to swim with, and they're always up for doing distance. I hope, we're always training for stuff. So I have another friend who's swimming or planning to swim around Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So we train together, and then we always bring in friends. And the great thing about swimming in Hong Kong is that we can swim anywhere we want. We love swimming on the east side, the Big Way Bay and Shek Ho, and we swim around Cape Dag. And
one thing that you mentioned, and I don't know how much you're allowed to mention this, you said you swam outside of like that shark fencing thing, which I've seen before.
We all do.
So is that like allowed, not allowed, or what's the official rules about something like that?
We can swim outside the shark net. It's just at your own risk.
I see.
Yeah, the lifeguards are not going to come out to rescue you if you get in trouble.
Okay.
So one of the things that we do to mitigate that was we swim with a safety buoy on this orange floats. I put all my feeds in there, and I actually carry an iPhone. In a waterproof case, and I use it to take pictures. And if in case, God forbid, there's an emergency, I can call. Yeah. But knock on wood, I have not had to use that. Yeah. But I take pictures. I love taking pictures of my friends, of what we're doing. Yeah. And then I post it on my Facebook and my swimming club's Facebook group. Our club's called Southside Swimming.
Shout out.
And so I always want to get people more interested in swimming in Hong Kong, because I think people don't realize that swimming in Hong Kong, it's so great. We have so many beaches. We have gorgeous scenery. And it's not, I think a lot of times when people think about Hong Kong, it's the harbor. And I think a lot of people, the first time I told my mother I was planning to swim around Hong Kong Island, my mom's first reaction was, ew, gross. Yeah. Because she thought I was going to swim through the harbor. I mean, I did, but it wasn't that dirty. Yeah. And we have so many other bodies of water around Hong Kong that are clean. And I didn't get sick, so I highly encourage people to explore, our backyard. One thing that in the course of these swims, and you're talking about this buoy, and you have a pack that is floating above the water, and you're swimming in groups, and these are pretty gnarly distances, and in terms of like fueling and stopping and breaks, if you're in the middle of the water, like, can you kind of walk me through that scenario of what that looks like? Like, how do you eat? Like, what do you eat? And what those little, things that I'm having trouble wrapping my head around. So on our training swims, you can carry water, but water on the long swim isn't really going to do it. Just like if you're going to run, or, you need like electrolytes. You need electrolytes, or you need, I need carbs. So on my distance swims, if I'm swimming like 8 to 10 or more kilometers, I take a carbohydrate, like a maltodextrin protein powder that I mix with a protein powder. I see. So I get kind of my protein and my carbs all mixed together in one drink. The protein powder I use is called Prana On, and it's a plant-based protein powder from Australia. I just like the flavor, and I feel like it's a complete meal. So I can take the same thing for my entire 10K swim, 20K
it's
swim.
fuel.
It's fuel. 20K.
But you stop and you're treading water as you're having a drink.
So we're floating, and I put it in a camelback kind of thing.
I see.
And my float has a little hole in the middle, and I stick it in there, and it has a hose, and I just drink out of the hose whenever we break. And sometimes for treats, I bring some peanut M&Ms, and I eat that just for fun.
Okay.
And occasionally a gel, but I don't really use a lot of gels because the gels are really kind of spike your blood sugars and stuff. So I need something for like more sustained.
Yeah.
So that is more my training. But then on my long distance, like my channel swims and stuff, I prepare all the bottles ahead of time, and then I feed every 45 minutes. I have a person in the boat that will throw a bottle out for me.
Got it.
And I will drink the same mixture that I drink this carbohydrate protein powder drink, and I just chug it down and go.
Okay.
So yeah, and then I just try to keep it very, very simple. But I know a lot of swimmers that want a mixture of stuff. They want Coke. They want something sweet. They want this. They want that. I think that for me, trying to simplify my feeds, it makes my feeder's life easier. And I'm not there to have a gourmet meal.
Well, I was also wondering, do you know of anyone that does something like, well, pack a sandwich in the middle of their swim, or a banana, or something that they chew on?
Actually, yes.
Really?
So there are people that do channel swims, and especially like ones that maybe for much, much longer than like 12 hours. If they do a 24-hour swim or something, they may want their comfort foods like a peanut butter jelly sandwich, some pasta, some noodles.
Pasta?
Yeah. I mean, not really with sauce or anything, but just probably just like penne pasta that you can just shove in your mouth.
Okay. I was imagining like a plating service where you have like a plate with a fork.
No, I think, trying to keep it simple, but I have yet to do a 24-hour swim, so I have yet to require.
Is that in your future, you think?
Possibly, yeah. I may be working up to something in the future someday. I'm slowly building up for it.
Okay. One thing that I just can't get over, the only reason why I've done open water swims is because I used to participate in triathlons. So you swim out to a big triangular buoy and go back.
Yeah.
I think from the moment I go in the water until the moment I go out, like in the back of my mind, I think there's probably like a shark that's stalking us right now. So whatever. Something that I'm afraid of is stalking me.
Yeah.
Or it's just like it's just a mess of people who some may know how to swim, some may not. So my question is like fear. It's like, have you ever encountered fear in an open water swim, and what's that like, and how do you manage that? I just want to hear about that.
So I have, in the Rottnest swim that I did in Perth in 2018, this is a mass swim from the Perth, from the Cottesloe Beach to this island called Rottnest. And it's a 20K swim, but there are thousands of participants. There's boats, there's kayakers.
Yeah.
And this swim, I saw something in the water. The water's super clear. You could see, and it's not deep. So I saw something at the bottom, and it kind of was pointy and gray, but I convinced myself that it was a rock. And it wasn't moving.
Okay.
So when I swam over it, I was like, it's about like 3 meters long, and okay, it's a rock. It's a rock. So I just swam over it. I didn't say a word, and I just kept swimming. And when I finished the swim, it turns out my teammates on the boat told me that there was a shark sighting, and that everybody behind me for this like 12 within a 1K radius all got pulled out. And I was like, oh, that's what it was. It was a shark. So I try to convince myself of things that could be potential sharks or things that could freak me out as being like inanimate objects.
Okay.
So when I first started open water swimming in Hong Kong, I was afraid that everything was going to eat me or sting me, kill me. And then I started realizing that most of the stuff that touched me was garbage. And I would just, now in my mindset, anything that brushes by me is trash. It's nothing organic.
And this is something that you've had to develop over time?
Yeah. So I've tried to learn to change my mindset on my fear and just reprogram myself to think that everything is garbage. And it has helped me to get over my fear. And I did have one kind of, I was swimming at night in the Catalina Channel in California, swimming from the island of Catalina to Long Beach, or close to Long Beach. And it was kind of right before dawn, and it was totally dark. And I had a support swimmer. So this is somebody who jumps in every couple hours to keep me company. And on that swim, I looked down and I thought I saw something moving underneath me. And it was super dark, and all I had was like the lights from the boat, which were quite far in the distance. And I kind of flinched, and I moved really close to my kayaker. My kayaker didn't see anything.
But could he pick up on your...
Nah, I didn't even think he noticed. And then my support swimmer was swimming right next to me, and she didn't say anything until the end. And then she's like, you know, when I was swimming next to you, did you see something in the water? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, yeah, I saw it too. We don't know what it was. It could have been a shark, could have been a whale, could have been a dolphin. We don't know.
Yeah.
But we both saw it. So there was probably something under us that moved. And, you know, it freaked me out for a second. I didn't stop, but I put it behind me and just thought, that's my imagination.
Wow. I mean, just hearing you describe that, like, I just get goosebumps about the thought of, I'm not going to do it. Even sometimes I'll have this irrational thought of is there a crocodile in the pool right now? There's no reason why that would happen. Just my mind does that. I don't know. I blame it on my mom being that way, always thinking of the worst things that are even irrational. But just the idea that maybe it's a piece of trash, or, it's pretty wild that you can kind of rationalize it that way, and, going through that experience. Does it also help to know that you have a greater goal in mind of finishing the swim? Is that enough to fuel you to keep finishing?
Yeah, I think that I just want to get there. I want to finish.
Yeah.
So nothing's going to stand in my way to get there. And so, I think it also helps to have that sort of destination in mind.
Even with that in mind, have you ever experienced failure or not finishing a swim for any reason?
I have. I didn't get to finish. I mentioned Siguru earlier. So this was 2019. I think I naively went into thinking, because these Ocean 7 swims, there's 7 of them around the world.
Okay.
One of them happens to be in Asia, in Japan, and it's from the Honshu Island to Hokkaido. It's a 19 and a half. The shortest distance is 19 and a half, but it starts further down on the peninsula of Tapi, and you have to swim 10 kilometers up and get this trajectory to be able to go farther out. It's a south to north swim, but you're swimming with a current that will run from west to east. So there's a current that pushes you. And if you can get out far away from the peninsula and do a sort of S curve, you'll land where you're supposed to land with the help of the current.
So you need to follow this type of routes in order
Kind of. You're not going to swim straight up north from.
Even if you tried.
Yeah. With the currents, they're really strong currents. And I think I just thought, well, I live in Asia, so I'm going to try. My first Ocean 7 swim was going to be Siguru. And I met a guy who is a seasoned vet for swimming all these ocean swims. And he's a friend. He's a good friend of mine now. His name is Dean, and he lives in Sydney. And I was introduced to him by another friend, and he said, this guy's done all these major swims. So I was following his swims, and he had done Siguru, or attempted Siguru. I think that was his 3rd time doing it. and a few months before I was scheduled to do mine.
Oh.
And I said, since he didn't get to do it in July because of the weather. So I said, I have a slot in September. Do you want to do it as a tandem?
Mhm.
And I thought, if I had this guy who knows what he's doing swimming next to me, and we'll both swim it together, I feel like
We'll be fine.
We'll be fine. Exactly. And it took a lot of convincing the organizers to let us do it. They weren't too keen on us swimming, but we were like, we promised to swim together. And finally they let us do it. And we started out as a night swim, and we
Yeah.
started out together. But then strangely he kept falling behind the boat. And I know he's built like a tank. He's super strong. And I couldn't understand why he kept falling behind the boat. And behind the boat, it's pitch black. They have a big spotlight where you're swimming, and there's actually a ribbon that hangs off the side of the boat, like the black line in a swimming pool.
Okay.
So we were swimming with this ribbon that was moving. It was fluttering, and it kind of kept us company. And I think
that's kind of like your sight line underwater.
Yeah. Just it was kind of fun. Not all swims have that. The Japanese happened to have it, and we were swimming on the line, but then all of a sudden he just disappeared in the back, and I was like, where'd he go? Then I had to slow down, and the boat had to slow down because we had to kind of keep together.
Yeah.
So he picked him up again, and then he slowed down again. And this went on for several hours. Every time we took a break, I was like, "Are you okay?" And he said he was cramping. So I asked if I could help him massage his foot, and he kind of got a little bit of the cramp out. But then
Also, in these situations, are you allowed to get onto the boat and take a break?
No, we are not allowed.
Okay,
We're not
or else
allowed
that
to
wouldn't
touch-
count.
Yeah, that would be a disqualification.
I see.
So I was not allowed to touch the boat. All our feeds are thrown to us from the bottle and thrown down, hanging off a line.
So if you were going to offer to help him massage, you'd have to be treading water as you do it?
Yeah. So because we were both in the water, and we're both like the swimmers.
Yeah.
I think I was allowed to assist him, so
Sure.
I could massage his foot, but he still couldn't get it out. And he knew that we made the promise that if one got out, we both had to get out. So he was really trying to hang in there.
I see.
But finally we asked the organizers, like, is it okay if he gets out and I stay in the water? And they were more than happy to oblige. They're like, yeah, get out. So
You're already here.
He climbed out, and I continued for another 7 hours. So he swam with me for 5 hours, and then I swam for another almost 7 hours. And it was the loneliest swim. I also lost my buddy, and then my buddy now became this white ribbon that was hanging off.
Yeah.
And I just said, just hang on till it's daylight. Hang on till the sun comes up. In my mind, it was going to be the most glorious sunrise, and I could see Hokkaido, and it would just be
you're envisioning
I
this
was envisioning
on those
the
hours
finish.
in the pitch black.
That the sun was going to come up, and it was going to be calm, and I was going to get there.
Yeah.
But when the sun came up, it was just, some days the sunrise is just like the lights just come on. It was nothing beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was gray and overcast and windy, and the currents got stronger and stronger. And then
So it wasn't motivational.
it wasn't motivational. And in my mind, I thought I was still making progress.
Yeah.
And I thought that I was still going forward. But what had actually happened was that I was starting to get taken away by the current, and it was starting taking me east. So I was not actually being able to get going north.
Oh.
And I was getting more and more tired. I asked, instead of a 45-minute break, I asked for 30-minute feeds. So I was getting fed more often, but every time I stopped, I was getting taken further and further away from my
Because when you're
destination.
staying still, you're not actually staying still.
I'm
you're
getting pushed.
pulled out.
Yeah. So eventually, after 11 and a half hours, I was kind of like, I think I'm done. And they were almost ready to pull me out anyways. So I was totally flat out exhausted. I think I probably still had more than 10 kilometers to go.
Mhm.
I had only seen land on one of my feeds, and that really, seeing land helped me. And I was like, oh, I think it's in sight.
I'm actually going there.
Yeah, but most of the time the boat was kind of blocking my vision, so I couldn't see where I was going. And then I thought that I was making progress, but so that to summarize, that was my failure.
Yeah.
I have yet to go back. I went back in I went back last year, but the weather wasn't cooperative. And actually that last year was 2023 was a pretty disastrous year for the organization that organized the swim, because out of 13 swimmers, only one made it across.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was, I don't know what happened. The weather, they imposed some new rules about having a 14-hour cutoff. So if you didn't make it by 14 hours, I didn't even get a chance to try because the weather wasn't good for my window.
It just seems there's like, if you're talking about these Ocean 7, right?
Yeah.
There's just so many variables here that are out of your control.
And it is, I mean, it's quite a large chunk of money to pay for these swims. It can cost, that one was about $5,000, $6,000 US.
To register, or even with all like the equipment?
To swim, just the swim itself, plus the airplane ticket and the hotel and, you know, all of that. It does add up. But I have subsequently, I've done more swims. I've done Catalina. I did English Channel in 2022. I did Manhattan swim, which is the circumnavigation around Manhattan. And I did Catalina. So those three form this swim, these three swims called the Triple Crown. So I've finished the Triple Crown.
Nice.
Yeah. And only 300, I think less than 350 people have done it, as all three.
So having done the Triple Crown after having failed the swim in Japan, does this give you more, I guess, motivation to see the end in sight for the Ocean 7? Or is that just, if it happens, it happens? Like, where do you stand with completing?
I think I'd like to try. I've done three. I've done, the other one I did was Gibraltar Strait, which also happened, I did last year, which was a much shorter swim, around 15 kilometers from Spain to Morocco. So it's a transcontinental swim. So it's Europe to Africa, which is also kind of cool.
How far is that?
15 kilometers. So
Okay.
it's like Mediterranean.
In my head, when you say from one continent to the next, it just seems like some unimaginable distance. But 15 kilometers is like, okay, my geography is just really terrible.
Well, I mean, there's also the Bosphorus, which I have not done yet, but in Turkey. That is also swimming from Europe to Asia.
Yeah. That's a pretty awesome thing to put on your CV. Like, I swam from one continent to another.
So I haven't done the Bosphorus yet, but that's a hugely popular swim that happens every year. I hope to do that. I have to do that. I think it's a 5 or 6K swim on the Bosphorus River.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that I kind of take these things as sort of organically.
Sure.
I am getting older. I'm 49 this year. I'm turning 50 next year. I just have to see how my body holds up.
Sure.
I'm in very good shape now.
Yeah.
But I also, want to keep trying these challenges. My friend Dean, who swam, he'd done 6 of the Ocean 7 swims.
Whoa.
He's in his mid 60s, and he just earlier this year he swam he swam for 32 hours, and he swam I think he swam, it was called the 60 miler from Newcastle to Sydney. It wasn't actually 60 miles but he did it at the age of 64.
Yeah.
And he's the first person to do it. So it gives me hope that
first person to ever do it, and he did it at 64.
Yeah. So, these endurance swims are totally okay to do at an older age.
Yeah.
And I think that it's great, because I think that a lot of people think that their swimming career is over after they swim in college.
Right.
Or, they injure themselves. And I think that swimming is one of these things that can be lifelong.
Yeah.
And it's great for your health. It's not taxing on your knees.
I mean, sometimes like doctors recommend swimming as a form of exercise when you are injured, right?
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think that maybe for a lot of your listeners who put their bodies through a lot of stress and doing your CrossFit
stuff, yeah.
But I think that swimming is actually really good for your body to recover, and you build up endurance as you get older. I'm definitely not as fast as when I was 22, But,
That's okay.
my endurance, I would have never thought I could swim 20 kilometers when I was 22.
Yeah.
So you build up endurance, but, the speed, maybe you just kind of hold on to what you have, and you can start, becoming better in shape and building your strength. But, endurance is something that stays with you.
Well, that if there's any like good elevator pitch for starting open water swimming, there it is right there.
Exactly. Yeah.
To wrap up, I do have like a few lightning round questions. So
Yep.
some of these are, I think these are all unserious questions, but just real quick. So there is a joke of how can you tell if someone does CrossFit? Don't worry, they'll let you know. How can you tell that someone is an open water swimmer? Are there any like obvious tells?
I don't know. You could probably see that I have goggle marks on my face, and
in high school I had the whole raccoon face
and like tan line on my
from the swimmer's cap. Okay.
That's probably one of the giveaways
Okay.
that I'm a swimmer. And then also I think that when we get together, it's hard for us not to talk about swimming.
I guess we're two sides of the same coin on that note with CrossFit. Sunny or cloudy day for a swim?
I actually like cloudy days.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I don't get burned.
I see. Yeah. Do you have a swimming nickname?
Some people have called me the Messiah.
No way.
Yes, you are in the presence of the Messiah. It started out as a joke. It's just because I started to sort of take over the swimming group.
I see.
On the Sundays.
Yeah.
And somebody, for the hell of it, just bought me this Jesus outfit.
Okay.
And I wore it a couple times, and it looked like I was walking on water when everybody else was in the water. And I busted out occasionally.
Sweet. So, Edie the Messiah.
I am Catholic, so I don't want to offend any right, people who are
good shout out there.
Religious.
Do you have a spirit animal as a swimmer?
My spirit animal is actually this kind of I'm born in the year of the rabbit. I love rabbits. I've had rabbits, and I just adore rabbits. So one of the things, there's this rabbit that lives in the swamp in, I think, Missouri.
Yeah.
And this rabbit swims. This is kind of rabbit that is a swimming rabbit.
Yeah.
So that's the swamp rabbit is my spirit animal.
I'm impressed that you have a specific animal in mind for that. The swamp rabbit. I gotta Google that. Here's one. Don't think too much about it. Peeing in the open water, super normal or super gross?
Oh no, totally normal.
Totally normal.
It's necessary, actually.
Good, because the next question is maybe a little personal for me. Have you ever peed in your own wetsuit just to get warmer in the cold water?
So I don't swim with a wetsuit
at all.
No.
Whoa.
So I just.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I've worked on my body fat and maintaining my body fat.
Okay.
And
so it's like, in this case, it's like, well, there's no need because I never feel cold.
No, I do feel cold. I've felt cold before. I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
But I have not gone to the point of hypothermia yet. But peeing definitely helps. Yeah.
Thanks. Sweet. But it's in open water.
Oh yeah, my friends who wear wetsuits pee in their wetsuit all the time.
I have friends who do the same thing too. Yeah. And then last one, this is a question we ask all of our guests. Could you just quickly describe your perfect day?
My perfect day would be to get up early and go
before the sunrise.
I get up before the sunrise, but whether I start swimming before the sunrise is another thing. But I tend to get in the water around 7 or 8 o'clock, and I can do a 10K swim, maybe starting from Big Wave Bay and going down to around Cape Dag and ending up in Stanley. And it's just with all the currents in our favor.
Yeah.
And doing it with my friends. And then having lunch in Stanley somewhere, and then coming home and taking a nap. I'm a big napper. And then maybe going out to dinner with my friends or just chilling at home. That's
nice.
My perfect day.
Perfect. Well, on that note, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been really eye-opening to hear about how you can go through an open water swim after being, a competitive in the pool swimmer. So I guess there is a little bit of hope for me after all. And on that note, if people are interested in reaching out to the Hong Kong open water swimming community, where can they reach them and where can they reach you?
So if you can get on Facebook, we are at Southside Swimming Hong Kong, and I run the Facebook page. So if you message me, I will reply, and I invite anybody who's curious about open water swimming to look us up. We swim every Sunday in Repulse Bay, meeting at the benches across from 7-Eleven, and we meet at 8:15. We start swimming around 8:30. We do 1 hour, sometimes a little bit more, but for new people can, even a little less than 1 hour. And, just get the feel of swimming, and it's a very welcoming community.
Awesome. Well, I will consider it. But until then, just thank you so much for being here, and good luck to the rest of your long distance swims, and may you have a fruitful and long career in that.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Process podcast. If you love this episode, or if this episode had an impact on you in any way, shape, or form, we'd love to hear from you. We would also greatly appreciate it if you could give us a follow or subscribe to our channel and leave us a review. Your feedback and support genuinely means the world to us. To find out more about the Process podcast and the Process programming, head over to our IG page or our Facebook page at The Process Programming, one word, or check out our website at www.theprocessprogramming.com. Thanks again, team, and have yourself a lovely day.